Hey everyone, so last video we talked about some of the exercise components or some of the exercise variables when we're designing a program, such as anaerobic or aerobic exercises, metabolic response, strength training, or whether it's a central nervous system. So this video we're going to talk about some other components related to exercise programming, and I hope it helps. So just like any program, everything starts with your goal. We talked about that a little bit in the last video, but it still plays a big role in the next components of our exercise program. So once we understand what our goals are, whether it is trying to lose weight or gain muscle or increase our power or strength, having a metabolic program or having a more strength training program, our goals are going to dictate that, and then we're going to follow that up with our assessments. So our assessments are going to pretty much determine how well our body is functioning. Just like I wrote here, the greatest programs are going to look at how well you function. So if we're trying to progress on any type of program, we have to see where we currently stand so that we can progress safely and efficiently. So in regards of assessing, you can assess yourself in just about any type of exercise. Again, it depends on what your goal is and it depends on what you're looking for. But if you're trying to improve your running, you want to get your running strides assessed, right? You want to get your running pattern assessed, see how your running is how you're starting off with your runs, or even if it's sprinting, you want to see how your sprinting is. A lot of times a basic squat assessment will determine how your hips are functioning, how your knees, how your ankles are functioning. But even if you're trying to improve, your bench press or something, you want to get tested, you want to get some sort of an assessment and see how you're starting your bench, and then see how you're improving your bench as you're progressing through your exercise program. So an assessment, to get it done, I usually recommend getting it done by some sort of professional, some sort of coach. The coach is going to essentially instruct you to perform a certain exercise, and then he's going to look at you and see if there's any deficiencies while you're performing it. So whether it's a squat, your sprints, your jogs, your bench, or anything like that, he's going to say if there's any, or she is going to say if there's any deficiencies with your hips, your shoulders, your core, anything like that. If you can't get a coach for whatever reason, or if you don't trust any of the coaches, you can record yourself. I would definitely recommend recording yourself to see if there are any deficiencies while you're performing the exercise that you're trying to improve, and see if there's anything that you can do to help improve that. You just got to make sure that you know what you're looking for. So continuing down the exercise program, we want to look at some of the exercise selections, right? And there's a wide variety of exercise selections that we can choose from, but some of them would be whether it's body weight training, endurance training. It could be strength training, power training, plyometrics, or reactive training, corrective exercise, balance, stability exercises. The list goes on, but that's usually like the big stuff. The reason why this is important to understand is because all these exercise selections are going to be based off of your goal and the way your assessments, right? How you perform on your tests. If we only look at your goal, right? If we're just trying to get big, right, or just lose weight, right? That's going to limit our exercise selection, right? So if we say I just want to lose weight, then we're probably not going to focus a lot on strength training. We're probably not going to focus on power training or explosive, maybe not corrective exercise or anything like that. And then, when you do your high repetition, high metabolic demanding exercises, whether it's a lot of jumping or sprints or anything like that, we find out that, every time you jump, your knees cave in, or every time you jump, your knees hurt you, right? That's a problem, right? And if we did our assessments, that would kind of catch that before we're in the middle of our program and we're kind of banged up, so to speak. So if we look at constructing a proper exercise program, we want to say, okay, our goals have a big play or a big part in how we're going to do it, but our assessments are going to kind of guide us into getting there safely and smart. So the last thing when it comes to designing an exercise program is understanding all the variables that we can manipulate throughout the program. This could be the weight used, tempo, duration, intensity, sets, reps, your rest period. We talked about some of this stuff in the last video, but these are going to be some of the big things that we want to consider changing throughout our exercise program, and understanding when to change it and when not to change it. So just to recap everything that we talked about in the last video and this one, we talked about this broad spectrum of exercise programming in terms of a more metabolic program, a strength training program, or this more central nervous system program. And then this video, we got a little bit more specific in terms of assessments that may need to be done, and then we talked about exercise selection and the variables that may need to be changed throughout your program. So just to give you a little more realistic example, if we understand that everything is based off of our goal, right, it kind of starts with what we're trying to accomplish, and we say, okay, our goal is to lose weight. And we understand that based off that spectrum, we're looking to achieve some sort of metabolic response, right, or this metabolic demand, right? So we're going to say, okay, we're looking for a metabolic program, right? And that was like that rep range of about, we'll say, 15 plus. So we understand that we're trying to achieve this high demanding program, metabolic demanding program, but before we can do that, we have to see where we currently stand, where we currently, how we function. So that's going to be that assessment, right? We're going to get some form of assess, if I can spell it right. Right? We're going to get some form of assessment, and that's going to either determine whether we need some sort of correction, or we may need to get stronger in something, right? Maybe strength may be needed to be looked at. Or we can just say nothing. None. Right? Maybe we're good to go, right? We're good to start this program because we have no issues. So based off of how this is going to go, this is going to say, okay, if we follow this path again, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to look at exercise selection. Right? And we already listed all these different types, or all these different ways that we can exercise, right? Whether it's body weight training, strength training, weight training, all that kind of stuff, right? And that's another broad kind of thing, right? There's still a lot of exercises that go into weight training or into body weight training. But if we're looking at some sort of corrective, right, that maybe every time, your assessment was a squat, and every time you squat, you have some sort of pain, right, or your knees cave in or something like that, then okay, then we understand that we have to have some sort of corrective exercise. Right, we know that should be part of that program, right? Maybe, or we know that maybe our back also hurts us, right? And maybe we have some weak, core muscles, right? So we probably got to get some strength in there as well, right? If you're good to go and you have no issues, then maybe you really don't have to worry about corrective exercises. Maybe you can just sprinkle in some strength training stuff in there, or if you want to do maybe a little bit of power training, that's not a big deal, right? But you understand that this is going to be your primary focus if there's no issues, right? So you're going to go with a more high repetition, right? You want to just keep that in mind, high reps, right? And this could be anywhere between, this could still be body weight, depending on your experience or your level, right? Or it could be still weight training, that's fine too, right? Just the weight would be lower, right? Because we're trying to do a ridiculous amount of weight reps with it. So then following that, we're going to say, okay, what's our variables, right? right? All the different things that we can change throughout it, okay? So if we're just starting off, right, we really haven't, exercised in the last few years. We have nothing wrong with us, so that's awesome. So the variables, right, we're not going to jump into, 6 sets of, 12 reps. That would probably be ridiculous. So as far as, your sets and reps, that's usually like a typical, it's usually a typical, 3 sets, 3 by 15 plus, spectrum there. And then you still have, the weight that you're going to use. Again, that's relative, right? Maybe 20 pounds is easy, for you, but heavy for someone else, right? So you still want to make sure that your weight is appropriate for you, but you're trying to achieve a high repetition, right? So you don't want to go 20 pounds, but you can only do it 8 times, right? That's not going to get that metabolic response that we want to achieve. So, this is just a small way to kind of give you a little bit more of a realistic approach to it. So this is all going to be different for each person, based off your experience or any kind of past injuries that may end up, changing some of the variables in your exercise program. But now that we kind of covered all that, I'd like you to share some of your experiences. Leave a comment below. Let us know what your biggest limitation was in your program, whether it was, maybe it wasn't the right program for you. Maybe you wanted to, lose weight, but, you were doing some sort of strength training program. Was it because you didn't get assessed, right? And they didn't see, you never saw some of the limitations that you may have in terms of your body function. Was it poor exercise selection? Or maybe the variables didn't get changed up enough. If you got great results in your program, comment below and let us know why you think you got the best results. If you have any other questions or any other concerns, please feel free to email me or leave a comment below. Our next video will be on eating and how we can manipulate that throughout our health and fitness program.